Hi, we're Britt and Mike, and this is Leah. We're converting our 2021 Ford Transit van into a home on wheels. Last week, Mike started putting together all the components of our electrical system, and this week we're finishing the job and finally getting to test it all out. We have lights! Hello from underneath our bed.
And welcome to part 2 of our electrical system build. Okay, so I've gone ahead and taken the batteries off this thing so that we could move it. It would be a little too heavy to move otherwise. Brought it into the van, ran a lot of our cables to where they're supposed to go, just to kind of test fit it into place and see how everything's going to go together. There's a couple parts that we're waiting on, including the ground cable, which is going to connect here and go back through this hole into the wall here. So I can't really finalize all this stuff, which means I can't connect the batteries and everything until I get that stuff knocked out. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and start pulling my cables through the distribution panel so that we can start connecting our 12 volt and 120 volt stuff there. I did already run cables that will go from the battery bank through our fuse here, down around to our shut-off switch. And then I also ran the one from the negative battery terminal, which will be all the way on the back side of the box here, and that'll come around down over to here to the shunt. And then the shunt is the piece of equipment that sends information to the battery monitor. So once we have all that stuff connected, we'll have the ability to monitor our system. Good morning, everyone. It's the next day. I am about to get to work on the electrical here, but first I need to climb into my Harry Potter bedroom. Okay, so I'm here in my chamber of secrets and I'm ready to start running some wires to my different components here. Alright, so I've got my distribution panel here, and before I can start running wires into it, I need to knock out a few of these knockouts so that I can run my wires through them, which is supposed to be relatively easy, but I've never done before. So let's give it a shot. Not too difficult. Okay guys, fast forward a little bit here. I apologize for the close-up intimate camera angle. It's the best I can do in this confined space. But I've got all my wires pulled through the distribution panel, including my 6 AWG wire, which will go to the DC side of the panel from the Lynx distributor, and our 6x3 AWG wire, which will go to the AC side of the panel from the inverter charger. So now all that's left to do is to strip and prep wire for installation. And it's probably going to be time consuming. So the first thing I need to do here is strip back about 6 inches of this 6x3 wire so that I can run it to all my different connections within the box. So to strip the wire back, I'll be using this tool that I purchased on Amazon. I think it may have been recommended by Explorers Life. I can't remember now. It's been a couple weeks since I purchased this, but it has been a great tool for stripping these large gauge wires. It has this tiny little blade in there. You see if you can see that. That is adjustable using this little dial, and it's also on a swivel. So whichever way you move this thing, the blade will rotate and go the proper way. It's great. So what I've done is I've set the blade so that it won't go all the way through the sheathing, or it will barely go through the sheathing completely. And obviously the reason for that is that it won't go through the sheathing on the other cables inside the outer sheathing here. So I'll strip it down, and then it should be relatively simple to strip this off of there. So you just put it on like so, and then once you get it in place, you just twist it. And then you can feel when it gets easy, that's when you're all the way through. And I might need a pair of pliers to twist this off of here. One thing that I've done a few times is take my box knife, and where the rubber doesn't tear, I'll just kind of go through and finish the job with my box knife very gently so as not to perforate the other cables inside. So now that I've got the outer sheathing off and I've gone ahead and cut away all the excess here of the little insulation stuff that goes in there, I'm ready to strip these back and put some ferrules on the end to make it easier to connect them into the box itself. I've got these strippers here. These are 12 to 6 AWG wire strippers, and I'm going to go ahead and take about a 1/2 inch off of each one, which should be just long enough to get some ferrules on there, like so. Now, I've never used this tool before. I picked this up on Amazon. This is a ferrule crimper. This one says it's for wire gauge 5 to 10. So basically 6 to 10, since there is no 5 wire gauge that you'll be working with. All right, it's relatively easy. Looks quite nice, and should make it a lot easier to crimp these or put these wires into their respective spots. So now I just got to repeat that process 2 more times, and then we're ready to attach this. So on further thought, scratch that. The ferrules are square and just slightly too big to fit into the holes at 6 AWG. So I had to clip these off, and I'm gonna have to do this without ferrules. These are nice just because it really cleans up the end of the wire and makes it where it just plugs right in. You don't have to worry about any of these wires becoming stray and accidentally connecting somewhere where they're not supposed to and shorting out your circuits. So they are a great tool, but unfortunately they won't be usable in this scenario. Okay, so just for a little better look at this, I've got the negative wire going to the negative bus bar, and the ground wire going to the ground bus bar, and then the positive wire is going to go to the breaker, which will be installed right here in the middle. I think that went really well. This wire is actually really easy to work with, really flexible. The sheathing on it isn't too difficult to remove. So far so good. I'm really happy with how this is working out, with the exception of my ferrules not working for this. But that's fine. They should work just fine for the other end where they're going to be attached to the inverter charger here. Cool. Now to install these guys. So the positive and negative wires here for the DC side will attach here and here. This is the positive, this is the negative. And with the size of these terminals, I shouldn't have any problem using my ferrules. So I'm going to go ahead and strip these back about a 1/2 inch, crimp on my ferrules, and then tighten them down right here. And then basically once that is connected over here to the Lynx distributor, that'll be supplying power to our DC side. Okay, there you have it. Positive and negative DC power is connected, and now it's as easy as prepping all these wires, putting them in their respective spots, and connecting breakers and or fuses. Good morning, everyone. It is the next day. Camera actually died right after that last time lapse, and I decided you probably didn't want to watch me strip and plug in wires for the next couple hours. So I am back. Let me show you the progress. Starting on the left side, I've got 3 runs plus the one that came with the box. There's a outlet on the back of the box, which I will connect a breaker to, just so that I have the ability to use that outlet if I would like to. Maybe run a power strip or something like that off of it. I'm not sure yet. I've got my 3 runs. One goes down the passenger side, one goes down the driver's side, and one is strictly for the heated floor system. And then over here, I've got my power in. Doesn't really matter where you connect it. I put it in the middle. That way I had the option of connecting everything on either the left or the right. I decided to go on the right because then I didn't have to work in this space down here below these wires. And all honesty, maybe all the way to the left is better for this big wire, but it's fine where it's at for now. I didn't want to have to strip this back anymore to reach my main breaker, which will be right here in the middle. Moving over to the DC power over here. Got my power in at the top, and then all my positive wires go right down here on the right side, and the negative wires go down over here in the bottom left corner. There is a little retaining clip on this box. You just pop it down, this whole board will pop out, and you can actually work behind it. Makes it a lot easier to get to those wires. The only caveat is the more wires you wire up here, the harder it is to get this board back into place. You don't want to push on it too hard or anything like that because you don't want to break it, but you know, you do have to be a little firm with it in order to get it back into the spot with all those wires behind it. I did take time to write down what everything goes to on this side, and over here these are still labeled, so there's no question about what is what anywhere here. I did have one wire down here, and that one is just a little too short. I've got this pulled out away from the wall a few inches, so it's longer than this, but it's a little too short to reach over to the negative side of the block. So what I'm going to do is use some butt splice connectors and some heat shrink, and I'm going to lengthen this cable up probably about 8 inches or so, just to make sure that I have enough length. Maybe even 10 or 12 inches, so that that section goes out the back of the box rather than be in the box with everything else here. I feel pretty good about this. I still have, I think, 5 or 6 spots down here to hook things up, so I should have plenty for all my other things that I'm going to hook up along the way. And then I'm going to move on a little bit more into this area with the charger, and I'm working on the ground cable over here. I just got to make a spot for it, and my cable should be here today or tomorrow. Okay, so it's been a little bit since I picked you up. Like I said before, I've got this pulled out, and the reason for that is I want to be able to drill the hole for my ground cable. So I've gone ahead and done that, and let me show you what it looks like. So here's what it looks like in here. I've got this hole drilled out in the back, and that's for the ground cable to come in. And then right down here where I've drilled at this little hole here is where I will connect it. It'll be a 4/0 cable with a 5/16 inch wire lug, and I've already got the bolt and everything to connect this. The only thing I'm missing is a serrated washer, and that will just help it get a little bit better contact with the paint here on the front of this. The serrated washer strips away some of the paint and just gives it a little bit better contact. Alright, so I'm back inside the van here. I've gone ahead and crimped some ferrules on the end of my solar cables. These are the ones that come through the roof and go down to the solar MPPT. There's a positive and a negative input here, and those are going to plug in like so. Both of my cables were black. That's just how they came from Renogy when I ordered them. So I am going to heat shrink some red heat shrink onto the positive wire, just in case anything ever comes loose, we know what's what. Well guys, this is actually really exciting for me. I've gone ahead and plugged in my positive and negative here from the solar, and I have lights coming on. The only power going to this currently is coming from the solar. So we have power, which is incredible. I'm just so elated that there is something going to this right now, because if I had plugged that in and nothing happened, I might have been a little worried. And I've got my voltage meter here. Let's just go ahead and see what we're getting currently. 107 volts. Oh, we're dropping. This is very exciting. So I think the max input for this solar MPPT, we have the 150 by 70, is 150 volts, hence the 150. So I think that is at 107 is pretty impressive, especially considering that I have never cleaned the solar panels and they've been there for several months. So I already know that there's like leaves and sticks and dirt all over those solar panels. So I do need to clean those. It would be interesting to see exactly what kind of output we get or input we get once we do. But yeah, I'm pretty happy so far. So right now I'm just splicing together this wire that wasn't long enough over here. This is a solder butt splice connector. Basically, it has like a ring of solder in there that when you heat it up with your heat gun, it will melt and make a very strong connection. And then there is adhesive on both sides of the heat shrink connector that's going to hold it onto the wires permanently. Once I'm done doing this, I'm going to put a heat shrink over the entire section here that I removed the sheath from. Okay, so back to the solar MPPT. I was thinking about the voltage being 107 and thinking that seems a little high actually for the maximum output of our panels. And it got me to thinking like, oh, is there something wrong? I'm sitting here kind of racking my brain like it shouldn't be more than like 52 volts or something like that coming through. So something seems a little off. And I realized that I was testing under AC instead of DC current. But now that I've tested it correctly, it is coming in under those parameters. Let me show you. Right at 48.8, right under 50. So we are perfect in the correct range, and I can not worry about this anymore. Good morning, everyone. It is a new day, and my first order of business today is to drill out the hole for our Victron battery monitor. Okay, so just a quick note, you need a 2 1/8 inch drill bit to cut out the hole for the Victron battery monitor. So got that here, got everything taped up, ready to go. Should be quick and easy. Okay, so as you can see here, I've got the monitor mounted to the front side of our closet here, or the back side of our closet, rather. On the back side, you have this cable, plugs in here. I have it going down, and I couldn't fit it through this hole, so I made another one right here. Through the bottom of this, underneath to the garage, and then I've run it along these wires that I've already got bundled all the way back to the control center here, where it goes down to the shunt. The cable for the Victron battery monitor actually makes it really easy to install, so I was really happy with that. I didn't have to run any extra power supply cables or anything like that, and just running one wire through your cabinets or what have you is, you know, quick and easy. So thank you, Victron, for that. Alright, so it's been a little bit since I picked you guys up. Let me go ahead and show you what I've been working on. First of all, I don't know if I showed this to you before, but I attached the power cable that goes from the shunt up to the links distributor, and I shortened that with a butt splice connector because it is pretty long. That was a recommendation from Explorer's Life, and a good one at that. And then I went ahead and put my main breaker in. I just need to run and pick up my other breakers from Lowe's. So those are ready to go in now. And then over here I have attached my wire lugs. They're that go to the 12 volt panel here. So those are ready to heat shrink and then attached to the links distributor. And from there I will be going to the power cables that go into the MPPT. So after all that, I think I'll be ready to get started on the inverter charger over here. I've already got the cables made, the 4-aught cables that are going to go for that, and then I'm going to have to run this big triplex wire that goes down to the 120 volt box here, as well as my ground cables and stuff like that. I also have the smart dongle, which allows everything to communicate via Wi-Fi. That's going to be attached to that as well. I have to hook that up still, but we are taking baby steps to get everything wired up over here, and we'll be able to attack that next. And if you're telling yourself that this is taking way too long, I agree. The thing is, I've never done this before, and I am taking a lot of time to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly along the way. Unfortunately, with the setup of our system, I can't go step by step with the system that Nate at Explorer's Life built. I'm doing some things in different orders so that everything will fit correctly in the space that I have. So it's made it just a little bit more challenging to get everything done as timely, because I can't just look at it and be like, oh, that's the project I'm working on now. Instead, I'm like working on 2 or 3 or 4 things at once, and it's a bit overwhelming at times. So it is taking me a while, but I'd rather get it right than make any mistakes. So knock on wood. Okay, so I went ahead and attached everything here. I have a 100 amp Blue Sea fuse to tie it all in. And now the only thing, other than the batteries not being connected, but the only thing keeping everything from being powered on this panel here are the fuses that will go in line here. Pretty exciting stuff. Alright guys, I've been out here all day, sitting in this crawl space for most of it, regretting my life choices. Mostly kidding. My back hurts. But here's the progress that I made today. Okay, so this panel hasn't changed since I last showed you. Got that breaker installed. Need to pick up my other breakers today on my way home. Over here, we've got the shunt wired up to the battery monitor by the bed and also to the power source over here. These are the cables that will go to the inverter charger. This is for the solar MPPT right here. Those cables come out over here. They are not attached yet because I'm gonna have to disconnect the MPPT to plug those in for now until I get my fuse for that. And then over here I have the 12 volt fuse block. It comes in right here. To the right of that will be our air conditioner, which is these 2 cables here. And I realized today that I don't have wire lugs for these, so I had to order those. Aside from that, I'm missing a couple fuses. I have one for the air conditioner, but the one that was for this guy here was just really puny. This is what I ordered on Amazon, and I am not happy with this. I'm not going to use this. Just look how thin that is. And I know a lot of people say, oh, it's just a fuse, whatever. Well, I want my fuses to work properly when they're supposed to work. Compare that to this 100 amp fuse right here. And look how much more substantial that 100 amp fuse is to this one. I think that these are just cheaply made. I wouldn't shy away from using this for something that was lower amperage, but for my biggest amp on this entire block here, this isn't going to cut it for me. And then lastly, the other thing I hooked up today, this is actually the fuse for our LIBIM, Lithium Battery Isolation Manager, so that we can charge from the front of the van all the way through to this side. Now this port here, typically you would go positive wire here, negative wire down here, right? And then you'd have a fuse going to here to the block. Well, this doesn't require a negative wire coming in. It's only a positive. There's a small ground at the front of the van, and then it'll have a fuse on both ends of the run, so here and on the back of the van. I think this should be okay, coming off the side like so, and then it'll have the cable connecting to it down here. Technically that's not what that port's for. These ports are meant to hook 2 Lynx distributors together, but I can't see a reason why I can't use that. So if you can think of a reason that that's not a good idea, especially if you're a professional or have experience doing this, please feel free to reach out in the comments and let me know either, hey, that's not a bad idea, or B, you're stupid, you're gonna burn your van down. I'm all ears. Like I said, I can't see a reason why it wouldn't be okay. It is fused just like if it was on any other part of the Lynx distributor. But yeah, if you can think of a reason that I shouldn't do that, let me know. What's going on, guys? It's a new day. Been out here working for a little bit already. Kind of show you where I'm at. Okay, so right here behind me, I've got our 400 amp mega fuse hooked in for the inverter charger. And I've got my 80 amp fuse hooked in for the air conditioner. I'm just waiting on those ring terminals that are supposed to come today. So that's the last thing I'll have to hook up here. And then I am waiting for another 100 amp fuse for the solar MPPT. And then once I get those things connected up, this section will be good to go, minus the ground cable, which I'm going to work on now. So I need to run a ground from the shunt through this little hole down here back into the wall over here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a long enough, I'm going to make it a little bit longer than I need to so that I can pull this box out in the future. I don't want it to be too short and make it too difficult to pull this box out from the wall. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, crimp the wire lugs on and get that going. And then I need to do another ground that's going to go from here in the middle of the Lynx distributor back over to the inverter charger. After I get those made, especially after I get the one hooked up that's going to go to the wall, I can start wiring up my batteries and get the system going, see it in action. Also, so far this feels like it's probably the world's most boring vlog, so thank you if you've stuck around this long.
Alright, it has been a very long, very hot Friday. Mike's in distress.
I quit.
What's the update?
Oh god. Okay, so I just got the inverter charger wired in and wired up. I'm still missing a couple things that I am waiting on from Amazon. Some wire lugs, a fuse, and I need to go get a couple different breakers from the ones that I already got. So I think we're gonna go ahead and call it a day today and then wrap everything up with a nice bow, hopefully tomorrow morning.
And test our lights tomorrow?
That's the plan. We'll be testing some electrical components tomorrow for sure.
If we can flip a switch and turn a light on inside this van, I think I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, how cool. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow.
See you guys.
All right, it is Saturday and it's a very exciting day because we think we're gonna be finishing up electrical today.
That's right. So I have a couple of breakers left to install, and basically all I have to do is put in the batteries and some fuses and we should be able to use some things. Okay, so I have a HOMD 50 amp main breaker for the power in, and then I'm going 15 amp breakers across the board, all HOMD. I have one single breaker that's just one, that only has one switch on it, but the rest are going to be tandem breakers, and this just allows me to get more out of the space that I have allotted. The breaker system has two sides, one for if you were going to have like a section that's dedicated to shore power only, and one that's dedicated to from your inverter. So we only have 1, 2, 3 spaces, so you could have as many as 6 different breakers or 3 tandem breakers like this.
Are you keeping a note of where all the breakers are?
Yes. A lot better than having to figure this out later.
All right, the breakers are in. It's the moment that personally I and maybe you have been waiting for. Battery time. You want me to bring them all out?
It's battery time. Any Mighty Morphin Power Ranger fans out there might remember it's Morphin time.
Watch me drop this $900 battery.
This is not easy. You want to do the rest?
No. I'm good. The batteries are 31 pounds, which is not nothing. It's pretty hard to lift like when you're laying on your side. Not as heavy as AGM batteries, so.
How the f am I supposed to do this? I need a f***ing wrench. God damn it.
Okay, I switched to the GoPro for filming this because it is such a tight space in there. It's really difficult for him to even get in there to screw them on. He can't use the drill because it's such a tight space. We put our platform bed on 2 piano hinges so that we could access the garage, and this one right here is on a hinge, but it's got a board underneath it so that we can use that for like a storage kind of pocket. But ideally we wouldn't have closed that off until we did this. I think that would have helped a lot. The last hour or so has been a roller coaster. We were very excited to put the batteries in, and then we realized it was going to be much harder than we thought to get them in and all hooked together. And then finally Mike figured it out, and on the very last connection on the last battery, the bolt seized because he was screwing it on with a drill, I guess, and it got stuck. So now he had to basically cut the head off the bolt and then do it all over again, and it was like we were almost done. So it's been tough, and it's, you know, 100 degrees out. Is this the infamous seized bolt?
Yeah, that's the one. The bane of my existence.
In better news, Mike is done, and we're gonna flip the switch.
You ready for this?
What's gonna happen?
I don't know. I've never turned it on before. Okay. I'm assuming a big fat nothing. It's not gonna, you're not gonna see anything crazy going on here, but let's just go ahead and see what happens.
We got an inverter light.
Oh, they work.
We have lights! Oh my god. You built that! Is that the dimmer?
That's the dimmer in action. They are on pretty low. It's pretty sweet. Now I've just got to jam a couple more fuses in and I can test the other lights. Hey.
Oh, that's so awesome! So if you haven't seen any of our other wiring videos, right by the slider door here, we put in these 3 switches, and these are 3-way switches. So that means that over here by the bed, these 3 switches control the same set of lights as the other ones. And we also have dimmers for them all. So you can turn on the hall light here in the morning and then turn it off when you leave the van over here. All right, we got a fuse in for our fan. So our max fan is running 2, and Mike set up the Victron app so that he can see how much power we're getting on his phone. So what do you got?
So it looks like we're getting about 33 volts, 3.3 amps. Our batteries are completely full right now, so it's not really doing anything. It's also worth noting that our solar panels are very dirty, and we might have a little bit of shade overhead from this, from one of these trees over here. I'm not sure. Very cool.
High five. That's so crazy!
This is fun. I'm so happy all this stuff is working the way it's supposed to, because if I had had that tough a time and then it still didn't work right, I wouldn't be in such a good mood.
Yeah, you really have to trust the process, because, I mean, we put that max fan in at the end of October or something like that, and, you know, the lights the whole way, and then you cover the lights up with the ceiling, and you just hope that it's all gonna work when the batteries go in, so.
So far, so good. So I need to go to maybe an auto parts store or something and get a 2-amp fuse for the AC, and then once I have that, we should be able to test the AC, and fingers crossed, no issues.
Alright, I think we're gonna wrap up the video here. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks guys.
See you next week.
Bye.